Hi everyone, this screencast is going to be about how we use Excel to do some comparisons for us when we're doing randomised probability type experiments. So this is a bit of a follow-on from the one about selecting without repetition. So I've set up across the top here a large table for 52 different cards in a standard deck, and there they are. So the index number across the top, and then that, for instance, represents the Queen of Diamonds, the King of Diamonds, the Ace of Hearts, and so forth. Now, I've previously explained about what all these random numbers in the ordered section and then over here in the randomised section are for. So it's a bit tedious, but if you watch the previous video, you'll see that I've scaled up the example from 4 objects in a list to 52. Same process. And here are my, in this experiment, I'm imagining that I've selected 3 cards from the deck without repetition, without replacement. So I just happen to have here the 5 of Hearts, the 4 of Hearts, and the 9 of Hearts. So that's interesting. And then I've done this experiment 10,000 times. If I was to scroll to the bottom of my spreadsheet, then you'd see that all of these are copied down to row 10,005, which is, I started, I think, in row 6. So these are 3 random cards that are drawn from the deck. Now, what I'm interested in is how do I get Excel to decide for me if I've got a pair or if I've got 3 of a kind. The first thing I need to do is split the face value of the card from the suit. And sometimes the face value is a single character, and sometimes it's 2 characters, like the 10 here. So the trick is, if we take a look at this formula, I've split this formula, or I've embedded a formula inside this formula, which is the bit. The first thing to look at is the embedded, the innermost length of the value or the text string in A6. In this case, the length of that string is 2 characters long. Then I subtract 1 from that. So 2 take 1 is a perfectly normal mathematics operation. 2 take 1 leaves me 1. And now what am I asking this function over here to do? The left function is going to return the characters from the left of this string of the length that I specify. So again, I'm pointing to the string in A6, and remember we evaluated that as 2 take 1, or 1. This is going to return only a single character from the left, which is, in this case, 5. Every time I recalculate the sheet, all those random numbers regenerate. It takes a moment. Now, the next one, that's fine. Let's go down and look at this one here, the 10 of Diamonds. So it's the same formula. This time the length, so the length of that string is now 3 because it's a double-digit number, and then a single digit for the suit. 3 take 1 gives 2. This is saying return the 2 characters from the left of this string. The 2 characters, of course, gives me the 10. When I press enter, it'll recalculate. It probably won't be 10 anymore. So that's splitting off just the value of these things. If I wanted to do a different type of experiment, and I wanted to know the suit of these cards, that would actually be pretty easy, because the last character in each of these strings is the suit. So this time I would use the function write, and for instance, if I picked that one, and I only want a single character each time. So the single character at the edge of that is a spade. Now, left and right are both text functions. They return a certain number of characters from the left or the right of a character string. Now, these ones operate in the same way. That operates on card 2, that one on card 3. Now, if I want to get a pair of cards out of these 3, let's think about the logic of this. Either this one and this one could match in value. Perhaps the first one and the third one could match in value, or maybe the second and the third one could match in value. In order to check whether I have a pair of cards, I have to use, let's just strip this back to the bare bones for a minute. So if you watch up in the formula bar, you'll see what's going on. So the pair of cards comes up as a true in this case. So the function OR is a function that returns a true or a false. We call it a Boolean value. And there's 3 logical comparisons in here, each one separated by a comma. It checks each of them, and if any or all of them are true, the overall result is true, as you would expect for the word or. Now that's nice because those ones were a match. Let's recalculate and see if we get some different outcomes. None of these matched, it's false. These 2 matched. 2 and 3 matched. I'm hoping for 1 and 3. Actually, better still, I'm hoping for all 3 of them matching. I'm hoping for 3 of a kind, because that would still come up as true. I could be here for a little while if I'm waiting for this very first one. In fact, I think I'll be wasting my time if I spend too much longer. So even if it were 3 of a kind, it would still come up as true. Now, that's okay, but it's really not a pair. If all 3 of them match, it's something else. It's 3 of a kind. So let's go over and look at this one. With this one, now I'll strip this one back to its bare bones as well. This time I'm looking for 3 of a kind. So it's and instead of or. Now if I want all 3 of them to match, then this value, the first and the second, have to match, as well as the second and the third one. You can see the references for F6 there is repeated. Now I don't need to check if the first one matches the third one, because if those 2 statements are true, the first one automatically matches the third one. So as long as those 2 statements are true, then I have 3 of a kind. It's false at this case. So again, I probably won't wait here long enough to get 3 of a kind, will I? No, I won't. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do now. Instead of the words true and false, which are a bit hard to work with, I'm going to embed this inside the if function. That all becomes my logical test. Now, if that's true, I'll put a 1 in the cell. If it's false, I'll store a 0. Numbers are so much easier than words. Now my 3 of a kind is represented by 0s if it's false and 1s if it's true. Up here, I've simply added up all the numbers in this column. There are 28 3 of a kinds somewhere. If I scroll down until I find one, I could be looking for a while, couldn't I? This might have been a bad decision. There's 10,000 rows here to look at, and there's only 28 3 of a kinds. Oh, did one just flash past? Yes, it did. There's one there. Look at that, 3 kings in a row. Now, it doesn't matter what face value they are, as long as they're all the same, we have 3 of a kind. So that's good. Oh, also notice that it's not a pair. Interesting. Yes, we'll get back to that in a moment. Now, that's for my 3s of a kind. For the pair, let's do the same with this one. If my brackets, all of that is the logical test inside the if function. Now, if that's true, I want a 1, otherwise I want a 0. And it didn't like the spaces that I typed into the formula because Excel gets funny about that. So there's my formula. If this one matches, or that one matches, or the other possibility matches, then we have a pair. Now, remember we said that if it was 3 of a kind, the pair would also trigger as true, but I didn't really want that. So here's an example. That one's a pair. There's 2 aces. Let's. How can we say we want this to be a 1 value, except if it's 3 of a kind? Well, we've already tested over here for 3 of a kind, and if that were 3 of a kind, it'd be a 1. Couldn't we just subtract the numeric value stored in that cell? Then, in the case like this, when a pair is true, so you get a 1, but 3 of a kind is not true, you get a 0. This take 0 doesn't affect the result there for the pair. If there were 3 of a kind somewhere, and there will be somewhere, if only I could go and find one that didn't take too long. Tell me if you... Say stop if you see one. It's going to be there somewhere soon. There it was, just went past, there it is. So that one's 3 of a kind. So that one matches that one matches that one, so we put a 1 in here. When I was testing for 2 of a kind, then yes, that's true, that's also a match, they're all a match. So the OR function would have returned a 1. But then I went and subtracted the number from here, which is why it ended up back as a 0. I do not want that to count as a pair, because 3 of a kind is a different outcome in my experiment than a pair. So that's just a little advantage of using numbers instead of words. Numbers are so much better than words. Now then, of course, I just do the usual thing. I add up all of the ones in this column. There were 1,694 pairs out of 10,000 experiments, or a 16.9% probability of getting a pair. There were only 19 3 of a kinds out of the same number of experiments, a much lower percentage probability. And if I press F9 to recalculate, these numbers here for these percentage, these are the experimental probabilities. They're reasonably stable. Yes, they change a little bit. That's to be expected because there's only 10,000 trials. So hopefully that's helped. This is getting a bit long. I'm going to stop now. The main focus was on how we do these sorts of things in this part of the spreadsheet using text functions like length and left, or right as the case may be, how we use the OR combination, how we use the AND function to combine things, and then how we can embed those inside the IF function. Okay, hope that helped. Thanks for watching.